Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Pratt here, and I'm starting to record a learning sequence to support you in undertaking the activities that you'll be doing each day with quality text. As you can see, each week we're going to follow a lesson sequence. So on Monday, you're going to read your assigned text and you're going to make a list of words that you don't understand and try and work out their meanings. On Tuesday, you're going to look at the author's purpose. What do you think the author's purpose in this text is? And I'm going to support you through that. On Wednesday, I'm going to guide you through some of the ways you can look at the text features to work out the meanings. And on Thursday, you will be forming a response that a teacher has set for you in terms of the text and what they would like you to prepare. On Friday, you will share that response with the teacher and they will give you some feedback. So today we're going to look at Monday's lesson sequence, and today we are learning to identify words in text that we don't understand, and I'm going to talk you through some strategies to determine their meaning. Our success criteria: by the end of this lesson, and when you go back and look at your own text, you'll be able to identify the words within the text that you don't understand. And you are going to use some of the strategies that I talk about today to try and identify the meaning of those words that you don't understand. So there are two ways that we can gain meaning from looking at quality text or picture books. One of those ways is through the words, and the other way is through the pictures. Sometimes when we read picture books, we come across words that we don't quite understand or we haven't heard before. And this is why I love picture books, because authors who develop picture books use really interesting language. And that's going to help you, boys and girls, when you go to write, because you're going to be equipped with some of this language to use in your own writing. So in this example, I'm using one of my favourite books. It's called Disgusting McGrossface, and it's by Rove McManus. And Rove used to be quite famous in Australia. He used to do a comedy show, and now he's moved into doing children's books. So on this particular page, we're talking about Disgusting McGrossface and some of his traits, and it says, who hasn't bathed in multiple weeks? Disgusting McGrossface, and that's why he reeks. Now, some of you may not have heard the word reeks before, but this is where we can look at the illustrations sometimes, and they'll give us some clues as to what that word might mean. So if I look at the image here, I can see that that looks like a skunk. Now we know skunks smell, and even the skunk spraying deodorant on Disgusting McGrossface, he must really pong. He must really smell bad. Now we know from what the text says, he hasn't had a bath in a very long time. So if I look at that picture and I look at what's happening in that picture, I think that if I make a suggestion, I use my think aloud, I think that the author is trying to tell us that he smells. So another meaning for reeks is smells. Let's just check if that would make sense if I read out this sentence and replace the word reeks with smells. Who hasn't bathed in multiple weeks? Disgusting McGrossface, and that's why he smells. Yes, it does make sense. It doesn't rhyme, but that's obviously how this writer, author, has gotten creative, and he's used rhyming words, and that's probably why he's chosen the word reeks instead of smells. Let's just check and see if this works in other texts. So this is another one of my favourite stories. This is Pearl Barley and Charlie Parsley, and this was written by Aaron Blaby. And on this particular page, I've read this with a number of students, and sometimes they get stuck on this word. While Pearl Barley likes to run amok. that mean? To run amok. Now, if I have a look at the picture, I can see there that she's wearing crazy glasses. She's blowing a trumpet. She's juggling 4 hula hoops. She's in her underwear and she's got roller skates on. So if I look at that image and I look at that word, I think it means that she likes to go a bit crazy, let loose. Let's just see if that makes sense in the sentence and the image supports that. While pearl barley likes to go crazy. While pearl barley likes to let loose. Yeah, I think that does make sense. And you know what? If I'm not sure, one of the things I can do, and we'll talk about this at the end as well, is to look in the dictionary to check that we've made sense of the word accurately. Here's another example of a text. So this is Pig the Tourist, and another book by Aaron Blabey. He's one of my favourite authors. And in this particular story, Pig tends to create havoc, create a little bit of craziness on vacation. So it says, Pig was a pug, and I'm sorry to say, when he went on vacation, he'd cause great dismay. I wonder what that word dismay means. Have a look at the image. Have a look at what's happening in that image. Okay, we can't see Pug, but if you have the double page spread, you'll see Pug's running around and jumping and causing all of the suitcases to upturn. He's just going crazy. It's not what we expected from him. And this is probably causing people concern. You can see Trevor, the little dog in the cage. His eyes are very wide open. He's quite surprised with what's going on. So I think the word dismay is something around causing some concern or to feel a bit uneasy about a situation. So let's read that and see if it makes sense if I take out the word dismay and put in the word concern. Pig was a pug, and I'm sorry to say, when he went on vacation, he'd cause great concern. Does it support the images? Have a look at the images. Look at Trevor's face. Does Trevor look concerned? Yeah, I think he does. So you can see how the image there is helping us as the reader to support our understanding of what's written in the book. Okay, another strategy that you can use, boys and girls, is to use what you already know about words. So in your spelling lessons, and this is particularly for those students in years 3, 4, 5 and 6, you have a look at the etymology of some words, so the word origins and where they come from. And you find out the meanings, so cirque means round and so on and so forth. And that's not just to help you spell words, it's also to help build an understanding of words, so that when you come to read texts that are more difficult, and you come across some of these words with those word origins in them, then you can work out some of the meanings of those words. So this particular page says, there's a certain creature who's to blame, and disgusting McGrosface is his name. He left that mess, no doubt for sure. Sit back, chillax, and I'll tell you more. Chillax. Chillax isn't really a formal word that's used, but I know a lot of people in this country use that word. I'm one of them. It's sort of a hybrid word. A hybrid means 2 words combined, and you can see there the 2 words combined are chill and relax, and that makes chillax. And because I know the word chill and relax, I can see how those 2 words have been combined to make the less formal word chillax still meaning the same. It still means to chill and it still means to relax. Okay, in continuing using my understanding of what's happening in the story, we're going to look at the word dwells here. It says he comes from a place where it's mucky and smells. It's hard to believe, but that's where he dwells. Now, some of you may not have heard the word dwells before. And again, this is why I love looking at picture books frequently with you guys, because it means we can build our own really clever language to use in our own writing. So if I look at this particular part of the text, they're talking about, or the author is talking about, where he comes from. So where he lives, I would say, it's talking about where it describes the place. It's saying that it's mucky and it smells. And then it says it's hard to believe, but that's where he dwells. I think the word dwells, what would make sense here is that's where he lives, because, you know, that's my understanding of what this part of the story is about. Let's replace the word dwells with lives and see if that makes sense. He comes from a place where it's mucky and smells. It's hard to believe, but that's where he lives. Yes, that does make sense. And I'd say the author has chosen to use the word dwells here so that it rhymes with smells. This author is very clever at finding words that make sense and that rhyme. Very clever. So here's another example. This is from Nick Bland's book, Monster Chef. And this is Marcel the monster. And Marcel's job was to scare children. And again, I'm going to use my understanding of what's happening in the story to work out the unknown word here, which is lurk. I wonder what lurk means. Let's read the whole sentence and find out. And when it grew dark, Marcel went to work, looking for suitable places to lurk. Now, I know from previous pages, Marcel goes into children's homes and he finds places to hide. But unfortunately, his job is to try and scare children, but unfortunately, he's not very good at his job and he's not very good at scaring children. They tend to give him a hug instead. So if I think about what's happening in the story, and I think about what his job is, and I think about what he's been doing in each of the children's homes at night time, I think where it says looking for suitable places to lurk, I think it might mean looking for suitable places to hide, to hang out. There's an element of secrecy around it because he doesn't want the children to know that he's there. But I love that we're not just using the word hide, we're using a really creative word. And boys and girls, you can use that in your own writing as well. So let's replace the word lurk with the word hide and see if it makes sense. And when it grew dark, Marcel went to work looking for suitable places to hide. Yes, it does, because throughout the whole story, that's what he's been doing. Right, let's have a look at the next strategy. Sometimes, and particularly as our texts get more difficult, the pictures don't necessarily lend themselves to giving us a clue to what a word means. And this is especially true when those boys and girls, particularly in years 3 to 6, start to move into chapter books where there aren't too many pictures. And you have to draw on your knowledge of what's happening in the story. And if you can't do that, what do we do next? Well, there are some other things, and I know in particular, stage 3, you should be using a digital spell checker, but you can also use digital thesauruses and dictionaries if you're not sure and you can't find clues in the text. You can't work out what the meaning might be based on the story so far. it might be a bit tricky for you. This is probably a last resort strategy, but it is still a strategy, and it's still important that before we start discussing a text, that we understand the meaning of the words that are used in a text. And this is why we undertake this activity. So on this particular page, we're back to disgusting McGrow's-face. It said, Mum and Dad both then had to concede now that I'd brought them up to speed. What does concede mean? Now, for a little person, that's going to be quite a tricky word. Some of the older people might know what that means. Mum and Dad both then had to concede. Now, I know, because of my background knowledge and because I've read a lot of books and have a pretty good vocabulary, that what's being said here, the whole time this boy has been trying to convince his mum and dad that disgusting McGrow's-face left the muddy footprints in the home. And he's presented some really strong evidence for that. And so I think Mum and Dad are now in a situation where they have to agree with his side of the story as much as they don't want to. But I've read a lot of texts, so I kind of understand the meaning of concede. And I've put all the pieces together of what's happening in the story and been a really thorough detective to work out that word. But if you aren't able to do that, that's okay. Okay, that's what we're aiming towards. If you aren't able to do that, what you can do is in a Word document, you can see the tabs along the top, File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design. If you go along to the Review tab, you can find that if you type in a Word document the word concede and click on the thesaurus button, it will come up with a number of different words that mean the same thing as concede. And you can see there we've got allow, acknowledge, grant, admit, accept. The opposite would be deny. Now, Mum and Dad had to concede. Now, he's presenting his case. So I think in this particular situation, the thesaurus is telling you here that they had to maybe accept that his story was right, or allow that his story was right. Give in and say, oh, we didn't really agree with you, but you've presented some really good evidence, so yeah, okay, we'll allow it. Now, sometimes the thesaurus will give you a range of words and you may still find it tricky to work out what the original word means. The other option on a digital platform is to go into Google and do a Google search of the word. And the beautiful thing about Google is that it has a little dictionary function. So if you type in the word and do a Google search, it will come up with the dictionary meaning for concede. And you can see next to number 1, it says admit or agree that something is true after first denying or resisting it. And I think that's what Mum and Dad are doing in this story. So we look at a summary of the words that when I read disgusting McGrow's-face, I picked out as difficult words that I didn't understand. I've listed them on my little post-it notes across the top. Then in the second row, I've written down what I believe the meaning was of each of these words. So for concede, the boy's parents had to agree with his story, and I used Microsoft Word's thesaurus to do it. Okay, so that's the strategy I used. If we look at the word dwell, I didn't understand what dwell meant. And then when I looked on that page, I worked it out through my understanding of what was happening in the story, and I believe it means where disgusting McGrow's-face lives. The word chillax. It's a less formal meaning of relax. I've heard it used by people. It has part of the word lax, as in relax. It also has the word chill in it, and it's a hybrid word. Remember I talked about hybrid, meaning two words joining together. And that's how I came to the conclusion of what chillax meant. The last word I wanted to talk about was reek. And in this particular example, I used the picture clues. And when I read the sentence, it made sense, and the picture supported my belief that the word reek means smells or stinks. So what you're going to do is exactly what I've done today. You're going to look at this week's quality text, and you're going to start making a list of the words that you don't understand. You're going to attempt to work out the meaning first, so you can either use the pictures, you can use your understanding of what's happening in the story, okay? You can use your understanding of the words. You might find a little word within the big word. Or you can use those digital tools as a last resort, so your thesaurus and dictionary to help you. Then, next to the word, you're going to write the meaning and the strategy that you used, much like I showed you in the last slide. Now, if you need to go back and review the strategies, you can do that because I've recorded this video for you and for your use. If you have any questions, please contact your teacher on Class Dojo and ask them. When you finish that activity, can you upload it onto Class Dojo? You can do it in written form, that is fine. But if you have a laptop, then you are to do that work and upload it onto Class Dojo. I can't wait to see what you come up with today, and I'm looking forward to reviewing them. Thanks everyone, and have a great day of learning.